joining us from the Marine Resources Council. She's the Director of Education. She'll be showing us a rain garden at MRC and how rain barrels save water and work. Nicole joined the MRC after moving to Florida in 2019. Previously, she obtained her master's in fisheries and mariculture at the Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. There, she combined her graduate studies with 2 years of Peace Corps service in the Philippines as a coastal resource management specialist focusing on research, environmental management, and outreach. She loves Florida's diverse habitats and offers hands-on feet wet programs to kids. I hope some of you will be attending her summer camps this summer. It sounds really fun. We also have a special guest, Jennifer Thompson. Jennifer came to Florida in 1998 to attend Florida Institute of Technology. And after obtaining her Bachelor of Science in Marine Biology and Ecology, she dedicated her life to improving Brevard County's water quality, falling in love with the Indian River Lagoon. While working for local cities, Jennifer saw how much help the lagoon needed and behaviors that residents could easily adopt to decrease pollution. And now she works as an environmental specialist for the Brevard County Natural Resources Management Department and helps design stormwater projects and their monitoring, inspects private stormwater systems across our county as well as Brevard County facilities, and enforces rules to stop pollution from entering our stormwater system, and tests water samples from the ocean, lagoon, and stormwater bodies. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us today. Oh, let me get out of here. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. So I thought we were going to go ahead and do a short video about how water pollution kind of starts to happen, and it'll give you an overview of how water can flow from any area. We're all connected to water, and that's really what we're talking about today. So even if you think, oh, I live 10 miles away from the lagoon or the ocean, it doesn't really matter. But really, we're all connected. Water doesn't know a city boundary or a property line for your house. It's going to go wherever it wants to. So Megan's about to share us a short little video just to kind of prep you guys. And then I'm going to walk the property where I am right now and pretend that I'm a water droplet.
All right, I'm going to show that video now.
Hey, Megan, your screen's still dark.
Can you see the video?
No, not yet. Thinking.
Oh, hold on. Sorry about that.
Yeah. And we just had a question asking where Jennifer Thompson is right now.
I feel like Carmen Sandiego now. So I'm actually in Palm Bay by US 1 and Conlon, very close to the Marine Resources Council, actually. I'm in an apartment complex. It's relatively new, and without naming names, because they've done some really amazing things out here with their landscaping and their pond that we're about to travel to. So yes, I'm in Palm Bay.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. And if I need to start up before the video, I'm ready to go.
All right, let me just see if I can get this video to start. Let me know if it works.
It is. We can see it on our screen.
Yay.
Yep. And then just put it in full screen. We'll be all set. We don't have volume though.
Sound good.
So, okay. Let me, how do I, okay, let me try, no. Let me try to fix the speakers, maybe. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. All right, let me know if you can hear this.
Yes, it's just quiet. All right, so as you're watching this video, you can see that the rain droplets are collecting different things that have fallen on the ground, like pet waste, car oil, fertilizers, and they're all going down the drain through the tubes and into our bodies of water. In natural systems, they have the ability to kind of the water has the ability to filter out through the ground so that a lot of the nasty stuff that was captured in the rainwater can be filtered through the ground, and it gives clean water to the different animals that live in the natural environments. And it's good for people. But we spend a lot of money going down, working with our infrastructure with the storm drains. So water is super important to make sure that we are having healthy lives and that we are repurposing our water instead of letting it just go down the storm drain, that it's going into natural environments like rain gardens or into porous surfaces, and that we're reducing the amount of impervious surfaces so that we are capturing the rainwater instead of having so much stormwater go down the drain. So Jennifer Thompson is going to be talking more about that entire process. So take it away, Jennifer.
All right, so I know we have a lot of different age ranges today, so forgive me if I get too silly for you guys, but there is some really good information buried under the joke. So imagine you're a water drop. You're part of the water cycle, you've been evaporated and you're in the clouds, little Danny drop. So Danny the water drop is hanging out there kind of all by himself, just like today. There's not a lot of clouds in the sky behind me. But over time, as it gets hotter, all of a sudden his friends start showing up. We got Caleb and Michaela and Jevin and all his friends. They got a party up there. It's all water. Now it's getting kind of clustered. Now we see darker clouds, maybe purple clouds. The wind picks up. Now it's going to rain. All those little water droplets come back down to the earth. Now, most of them are going to land in water bodies. So the oceans, the rivers, the lakes, and they're happy. They're with more of their friends. Some of the water droplets are going to land, just like in that video showed, get a nice cushion like grass, soil. They're going to be able to give nutrients, vitamins to plants. They're going to help out the earth in that kind of cycle. But some of the less fortunate ones, poor Danny, he's going to smack really hard on pavement, just like the parking lot right here. So what happens when a water drop hits your house roof or your sidewalk, your driveway? Not a very clean place. And so unfortunately, those little water drops, we still want to get them back to the party, back to their friends. And so back in the old days, well, it was just a bunch of pavement. And so it would sit there. Now, I don't want you guys bringing kayaks to school. Mom and dad don't need to be doing that. We want to drive places, which means we have to get the water off the roads. And so what we did many years ago is we started making holes, basically, and we added pipes. So what we have here today, as I'm going to show you, we've got the grate. And so sometimes you'll see those little rectangular cutouts on the sides of roads, or you'll see what I've got here is a grate. It's just got holes in it. And that way water can slowly slide back down. And so when they do that, they travel inside a pipe. Now, unfortunately, Danny's not going to stay very clean, probably. So most of the driveways or sidewalks or roads, your cars naturally oil in the tires, actually. And sister who just got a car, but she's broke. And there's a slow oil drip. Well, maybe she can't fix it yet. So all those tiny drips of oil are now dropping along the road. Maybe your uncle smokes and he's in the car and he just throws it right out the window. Maybe you've got a neighbor who loves McDonald's and they put the trash in the back of a pickup truck. Well, the wind comes and it steals it right out of the car. Maybe, I bet some of you guys have dogs. How many of you every single time pick up after your dog? You guys probably mostly pick up. What about the backyard? Because mom and dad say, oh, it's okay, it's fertilizer. Or it's good for the grass. Or it's our yard, we can do whatever we want. Well, it doesn't exactly work every time. So poor Danny the raindrop, he is going down that drain and he's clinging to all that stuff. Every time it rains, that comes with it. And so, unfortunately, most of our pipes, they're gonna go directly to a water body. So I followed the parking lot in this little area in Palm Bay. You can see in the water, we've got a big pipe that's going straight into this pond. And it's a beautiful pond. We got lots of apartments around. We've got birds, we've got fish in there. However, everything from that parking lot that you and I just saw is going down this drain and into the pond. So unfortunately, anything that's collected around here is going to go right into this beautiful pond where things live. And so we want to keep the water quality high. We want to keep it clean. And so some places are able to take like a grate or a mesh bag, something to be able to take away that trash. Something really important that we've got at the county are called baffle boxes. And so they actually trap sand. Some of them even remove some of the vitamins, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, things that are going to run off from your house. A lot of parents, they love the green, lush grass. I mean, it's fun, but it does take some chemicals to be added. So it's hold enough. So if the rain comes, then unfortunately it's going to get washed down the drain, and now it's in the pond. Now, if you've got small amounts, it's really good. So we have plants that live along the edges. I'll show you some in a minute. I haven't walked that far yet. But if there's not enough plants to take up all those vitamins, those nutrients, then unfortunately you're going to get algae. And I bet some of you guys can probably raise your hand right now if you've ever been out to the lagoon or the ocean even and smelled that kind of funky, gross, dead algae kind of smell. Unfortunately, we do have that in the lagoon because too many people are adding those vitamins, those nutrients into the water. And so the phosphorus and the nitrogen, those are the two big ones. And when algae gets a hold of that, it just starts reproducing and it gets crazy and it'll be everywhere. So unfortunately, we have to combat that. So if we can do that at our own homes, now it slows down the process. Now, some of these places have big boxes and you'll see them like the one on the side here. I know it's tough to see because we've got the big black fence around it. That huge white box, it's actually taking any of that trash, that litter that we talked about, and it can keeps it in the pond. So that way the cleaner water is able to go into the lagoon. So because I'm so close to US 1 right here in Palm Bay, that water is going to come through the big boxes that I showed you. And it's going to actually push all the way east into the lagoon. That's it. No other cleaning processes. So it's really tough for us to keep the water quality good and high for our lagoon. And we have all kinds of amazing creatures that live there. Manatees, some of our snook that are really endangered. We've got fish that you can't find anywhere else in the entire world. And so we have to make sure we're taking care of that because it's our job, because it's our fault that it got messed up. So my job is to make sure that we keep all of this kind of clean. So we have all kinds of projects that are meant to clean up our water in the ponds before it actually goes out that pipe into the lagoon. So any good scientist has tools. So what I do, I get this fund. Now you'll see that we've got plants right behind me. And we've got duck potato, we've got pickerel weed, all kinds of really good, healthy plants that are gonna take the nutrients, those vitamins from the water, and it actually sucks it up. So now I don't have leftovers for that algae and the bacteria to grow and feed on. So some of the tools, probably the most important one that we hear a lot about is dissolved oxygen. And so oxygen, just like us, fish need to breathe, except for they have it in dissolved form. It's actually in the water, clinging to it. So one of the ways we do that is this is a DO, dissolved oxygen pen. And you just pop it right in the water and it gives an exact readout real quick. If there's not enough oxygen, fish die. And unfortunately, algae, they go through photosynthesis, but when it dies, it takes all the oxygen. So there's not any left for the fish. So we have a lot of problems with our algae blooms. When we have too much algae, eventually that algae is gonna die. I mean, you can't live forever. And when it dies, it sucks up all that oxygen, and now the fish, crabs, everybody left over has nothing to breathe. So it's a problem, and we try to help that out. A lot of places will take fountains, and they'll have those beautiful fountains that are giving off good probably 10, 12 feet of water up in the air, then it comes back down. that actually, for the more advanced, it kicks in the nitrogen cycle. And so that nitrogen that would be taken up as nitrates by the algae is now transformed, and it can go back in the atmosphere. And so we have less nitrogen hanging out still in the water to feed that algae and the bacteria that live in the algae. So that's the number one thing that we always test for. Second thing is pH. So this is called a pH pen. You do the same thing. You stick it right in the water and get that stirring around, and it has a little readout right here for the pH. Now the pH is going to tell you how much acid or how basic it is, how many hydrogen molecules there are. And so again, you want to balance, because well, everyone knows about acid rain, so we don't want that in our lakes. And depending on where we are, it can have a big effect on what's living. So like these plants behind me, if I drop that pH by only 1 unit, these will die. So it's a really delicate balance. And in the lagoon, we have the same kind of thing. If you change how much acid is in there, it's going to have a big effect. Think about all the rocks and the sand and the shells. If you start to add acid in there, they're going to break apart. Now we don't have any bivalves. We don't have oysters or clams, hermit crabs. All those guys, now they have soft shells. They're not going to survive. So pH is a very important indicator that something is wrong. The natural cycle, as you guys learn about geology and how Florida has evolved over time geologically with the rocks, you'll listen to how we used to be flooded. We used to be totally underwater. Thankfully, some of that got taken up by glaciers and such. But now that we get to live in this beautiful state, you have to be careful of the balance of the ecosystem that we live in right now. So again, if humans keep interfering and adding all the car emissions and some of that, you hear about carbon footprints. And so when you add that into our atmosphere, it causes a slight addition of acid in our water. And so again, if you get that acidification across an ecosystem, things start to break down. We're going to change our whole dynamic in that lagoon and really in the oceans too. All right, I know what you guys know this is. Be protected, but it's just a little thermometer. Temperature. So who would have thought temperature is the thing we have to worry about? So algae loves hot water. So if the pond behind me was really shallow, you think about that, in the beautiful Florida sun, right now it's kind of nice, but it's going to be like 88 later today. It's going to get hot. So if it's shallow water, that's going to heat up way faster. And so algae, if there's just even a tiny little bit in there, and they have those nutrients, those vitamins I was talking about earlier, they're going to take off. If it's deeper water, if it's colder and it can't change as quickly, that algae is going to have a tougher time growing. So the cooler the water, the less likely you're going to have algae blooms. So that's why we see a lot of times in the lagoon over the winter season we'll be okay. But then the summer comes and you guys, of course, are out of school and enjoying the lagoon and the ocean. And then we get hot water and then we get algae blooms. So again, temperature is actually something we look at. There's some plants for energy that we have here in Brevard County. And sometimes the canals where the water comes out, it's actually warmer than what the lagoon and ocean are. And so that changes things, and we'll get algae blooms over there more frequently. Not to mention the manatees. My apologies, there's a train coming by, so hopefully you can still hear me all right. Last but not least, some of you more advanced guys, the 6th graders. So this is a refractometer, a very, very long name for salt meter. So all you do is you take a couple of drops of water, you put it on this little blue part, you slap it shut, and then I look through it just like a pirate. And I can read the level of salt. So the amount of salt, again, is very important for that water system because our animals depend on salt, but not too much. So the lagoon is a mix of fresh water and salt water. And so we just need to make sure that that balance stays pretty close because especially oysters, and we hear a lot about oysters, they can filter 50 gallons every day, just one oyster. So it's super important to have in the lagoon because we've got a lot of weird stuff out there. We need them to filter it and eat it. So if we change the salt level, it's going to be too salty for them, and they do not like that at all. So they die off. Or you go the other way, and then we have too much rain, too much fresh water coming from our cities and creeks. Again, the oysters don't take very kindly to that. They like their pretty balance that they have in the lagoon. So we have to be careful about the water, like behind me in this pond, how much of that is going into the lagoon. So there are places like Palm Bay that have redesigned their water systems to actually bring water west. So some of our water does flow west towards the St. John's River. And some of you guys may have gone airboat riding and looking for alligators out there. But we also have some of our stormwater cleaned up that goes to that river. And St. John's River actually fills up Lake Washington. So part of your drinking water, depending on where exactly you're located, but the city of Melbourne uses Lake Washington for their drinking water, along with the underground aquifers. So we need to make sure that that water is all clean. I mean, the lagoon has amazing creatures in it, and it's an estuary that the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, has been looking over to make sure we can try to clean it up and get it back to where it was. But unfortunately, there's just so many people, and then more people, more problems, and more dogs. But it all kind of adds up. So we need to keep the lagoon clean, but we also need to clean the St. John's River because that's our drinking water. So we want to definitely make sure we're protecting it. So I showed you some of the basic tools that we've got, but really, I don't have time for all those little individual guys. So I use my beautiful big probe. So actually, inside are all the probes I just showed you, all in one. Isn't that neat? So I've got oxygen, pH, I've got turbidity, salinity, it's all in here, all in one, which makes it really nice, really easy. And then I've got a computer that actually reads out all the numbers. So I just take this, I throw it in the water, and automatically I can read the numbers to see what else is happening in the water. The great part about this is it's an automatic reading. So I don't have to take small samples and put it in a cup and do the reading. So this is telling me exactly what's happening at any second. So if I want to know maybe in that pipe, when I was walking from the parking lot, what's happening, I can actually see the changes. So again, as a scientist, that's really helpful because say some dorkfish over there dumped something and I just happen to be reading that outfall pipe. Now I know exactly what happened, where it is, and what dynamics are changing. So for our stormwater, for this area, again, it's a very delicate balance. So that lagoon needs our help. You guys can definitely help by keeping your homes and what's coming out of your car clean. You know, if maybe someone smokes in your family, well, first try to get them to quit. But anyway, on top of that, we got to make sure that they're not throwing the cigarette butts on the ground. Have a little container for them, even if it's a cup, something, and that way you can throw it in the trash can where it belongs. When you walk your dog, make sure you've got a plastic bag or something to clean it up and not leave it on the ground thinking, oh, it's good for the environment, it's gonna melt away. Did you know that in one lovely leftover of your dog, there is about 1 billion bacteria? Billion to be. This is one. I know my dog was twice a day. So imagine all that bacteria all in this poor little pond or in the lagoon. So we need to take care of our area. We need to make sure that we are being mindful of our actions because all of it ends up in the ponds and then into the lagoon or the St. John's River. And unfortunately, we have animals who can't speak up on their own and they're the ones kind of suffering. And eventually it's going to come back on. So that is going to, sorry, I thought I heard something. So that about wraps it up. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to hand you over to Nicole, who's going to talk now about rain gardens and more about how we can contain water and try to reduce our impact. Maybe.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I think that Nicole's probably setting up her cell phone outside because she's going to show us their rain garden at MRC, and she's also going to show us her rain barrels out there and how they work and how that all kind of goes with what you were talking about, you know, conserving our water, protecting our water resources and keeping it clean. And one way we can do that is also by having rain gardens. Let me see if we have any questions for you while we're waiting. Someone asked, does that lake or pond have a name?
It does not. So this is owned privately. and I'm not at liberty to say because there's some good things and bad things in here. They do have Muscovy ducks, turtles, fish. So there's wildlife here. But there was also some vegetation they'd sprayed, so they added chemicals. So I'm not at liberty to say exactly where I am. But no, it's privately owned though. This is not like a public, like, you know, like Wickham Park or something where everyone can just walk around and do it. It's owned by this complex.
Awesome. And hey, there's Nicole.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Jennifer, for that awesome introduction to testing water quality and for sharing with people how important it is to keep our stormwater clean. Something that I want to show you guys really quick before I show you our rain barrel systems and our rain garden is a jar of muck. So here we go. I want you guys to check this out. Hi, sorry, I can't. Is it okay? So this is, yeah, sure, okay. Totally. Is there a bathroom? Sorry, we're close to the, hang on one second.
Getting a visitor over there. They're always busy at the Marine Resources Council. Everyone goes there and they've got this awesome hiking trail now that they've fixed. So, yeah. I think they get a lot of visitors over there.
Yep. Never know what to
There we go.
But this is a jar of Indian River Lagoon muck. So this is all of the stuff that goes down the drain, all that nasty pesticides and fertilizers, excess dog waste, sediment, anything that's nasty that has once been on the ground and has been captured by stormwater and goes into the lagoon. So hopefully some of you in the city of Melbourne have started to see these stickers along your streets and near your storm drains. It says dump no waste, drains to the lagoon, trying to raise awareness to people that whatever goes down your storm drain, like what Jennifer just showed you guys, ends up in the lagoon or maybe even into your waterways where you're going to be drinking the water. So there's different things that you can do to help kind of reduce your impact on stormwater pollution. And one of them is to install a rain barrel. You can see here's the roof right here. Water drains off of our roof, down our spout and into our rain barrel. And we use this rainwater to water our rain garden. And this is a rain garden full of native plants. You can see we have some beautiful dune sunflowers. We have some kuntis in the back and some mooly grass. These are all different plants that are helping to absorb stormwater runoff and preventing it from draining down our drive and into the lagoon. So someone I saw asked, how much stormwater goes into the lagoon, or how much water goes into the lagoon? Well, it's estimated that 5 times the natural amount of stormwater is going into the lagoon. Is that correct, Jennifer? Did I see you raise your hand?
Yeah, so we, on average, Florida gets 56 inches of rain in a year. So it's a lot.
So it's a ton. So that's why having a rain garden or using rain barrels is a great way to reduce your impact on stormwater pollution. Because as Jennifer mentioned, we want to keep our waterways clean so we have clean drinking water and so that the animals that live in and around the lagoon have a healthy place to live.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. I was going to say, do we want to turn over to questions?
Yeah, we've got quite a few questions now. One for Jennifer Thompson is, how does the pH level go up in a lake? And you might have covered this a little bit.
It's human. Yeah, it's okay. No, and so the human impact. So the acid. So are you talking? So I'll answer it both ways. So if the acid level goes up, that actually means the pH drops. And so when that happens, again, it's a human impact. So usually that's chemical based. Most of our pesticides and herbicides are acidic. Also, oddly, dog waste is acidic. So when you get all this wrapped, and okay, so I say dogs, it's cats, it's goats, it's rabbits, it's manatees, it's everything. So over time with, now, yes, the natural impact a little less, it's mostly us. But yeah, when you have, again, it's the fertilizers, usually try to have an a pH level of like 8. But it's the other ones. It's usually the herbicides, the Roundups, things like that, that are going to increase the acid level. So the lower the pH is, again, the bigger the impact on the waters.
Okay, awesome. And Miss Frost's 5th grade class asks, how does nitrates get removed from the water? How do nitrates get removed from the water? Sorry.
That's an amazing question, and that's literally my whole job to make sure that so here's the silly part about science is that you guys can learn all you want in a book, and we have engineers that spend hours and hours calculating exactly from a book what should happen. But then you get outside and then you see the birds, the fish, the plants, everything else, and it all kind of makes this amazing ecosystem. So some of the projects that we've got at the county, we actually, wood chips, of all things, who would have thought? We've actually tested a lot of different ways of removing nitrogen from underground with the water traveling. So the pond behind me is designed to hold a certain amount of water, but it actually can filter down into the ground, and over time it'll actually get down into the aquifer. So again, we're looking at helping to hydrate essentially the soil underneath us. But to get rid of all those vitamins, those nutrients, it's going to be difficult. But what we have figured out is if you push that water through, oddly, wood chips have performed the best, and you make the water push through the wood chips suck up the nitrogen. Nitrogen, and specifically nitrates, that's what we battle, because that's what the organisms out here, the algae, love to eat on. So if we can take care of that and have it at a moderate level, that way there's still enough for these beautiful plants behind me to eat up, then you have this beautiful balance. So wood chips, oddly, are the best way. But we've got a couple of different other media, if you will, for this. So like UCF, any Knights fans will be really excited about this. They made something called Bold and Gold, very, very Knights. And so that acts like wood chips. But it's all kind of underground treatment at this point. But like I said earlier, the fountains. So there's something called a nitrogen cycle, and a nitrogen molecule will transform. It adds oxygen to itself and it makes a compound, nitrate, nitrite, ammonia, all of that, and it's a whole cycle. And if you can, a lot of times the nitrate will remain stagnant in ponds like the one behind me, but if you pop in a fountain and you get extra oxygen molecules, it kicks in that cycle, as opposed to just sitting stagnant and there's no oxygen to feed off of or change that molecule, that compound. And so if you can get it into nitrite and then up in the atmosphere, the regular nitrogen molecules in our atmosphere, our atmosphere is mostly nitrogen. That's where we get all this to start with. We've got too much of it. You'd think oxygen for your younger ones, but here's your science fact for the day. There's mostly nitrogen in our atmosphere. But as the oxygen from that aeration happens, then it kicks in the nitrogen cycle and it releases those nitrogen molecules back into the atmosphere. So those are our two prime ways, though, is pushing it through wood chips underground, or if it's surface water like this, to get a fountain. And then you kick in the nitrogen cycle.
All right, one more question for Jennifer. Kaden from Mrs. Seal's class would like to know how many of the types of water filters are attached to ponds that go into the lagoon. And then a follow-up question for Nicole after that is, what is a lagoon? Okay, and yeah. So what types of water filters are attached to ponds that go into the lagoon? Maybe you guys could answer what a lagoon is first, for some that don't know.
Yeah, Nicole.
Sure. A lagoon is a shallow body of water, typically, that is going to be a mixture of salt and fresh. So it's going to be brackish water, and it's It's protected from the open ocean by a barrier island. And there's going to be water exchange with the ocean through inlets. And our lagoon is very unique because it is very long, very skinny, quite shallow overall. So it doesn't have a lot of water flow, meaning that whatever goes into the lagoon is going to probably stay in the lagoon for a very long time. All right, Jennifer, take it away.
So as far as actual filters, this is going to break your heart, I think. But there's, back in the 1960s is when we really made a lot of changes here. The Corps of Engineers did a lot of dredging in the lagoon to make it a little deeper in spots that we could actually ride a boat around. They did a lot of cleaning and fishing, and that's when changes happened. But at that point, all they wanted to do was get the water from the road into the lagoon, just get it done. And so they didn't care about any of that. So that was in the 60s. It's so long ago. And so all those pipes, all this time have gone unfiltered. Only recently, really in the past 20 years, have we even 25, have we really considered filtering the water before it gets there? And a lot of people, if you're from, or your parents are from different states, they're probably thinking this presentation is super silly and we don't need to worry about it because that grate that I showed you in the beginning goes to the sewer plant. And so you'll hear your parents a lot of times call it the sewer. As, again, going back to that earlier question, 56 inches of rain every year is amazing. It's a huge amount of water. Can you imagine treating all that? You'd have water plants on every corner of every street. It would be crazy. So we can't treat it, honestly. And it should go back into a water body. So those pipes initially, like, I understand why they did it, but because there's so many people, so many dogs, so many cars, so many houses, we have now this negative impact for our world and for our water systems. So now what we've started doing, again, the past 25 years, is we've got some filters. So depending on where you are, a lot of businesses are getting on board with this because usually there's a lot more oil. And they'll hang little baskets on those rectangular holes, like, or the grates that I showed you earlier. And so it'll be a basket that hangs, and there's like looks like a sock. And it's got almost like kitty litter kind of stuff inside in the middle, and it soaks up the oils, or it'll catch sediment and leaves and litter. So those are just little guys. And so it'll be little problem areas that homeowners or business owners will see, and they'll buy it. They're pretty cheap, and you can just hang it in there and you just replace that little sock when it gets dirty. So that's really up to the owners if they want to do that. It's nothing, like, we don't have any rules about that. But what the county and many of the cities have started doing, there's something really cool that we've been doing here for a bit, and they are called baffle boxes. Baffling. And what they do is it's like chambers, and it sucks down and traps any of the floating stuff. So leaves, cigarette butts, all that litter, twigs. It's weird to think that grass or twigs and leaves could be considered a pollutant, but they are because they break down. Actually, the grass clippings are some of the worst things to create that muck that Nicole has showed you guys. So we need to trap them. We need to capture them somehow. A big shout out to the city of Melbourne. I know Megan's probably wiggling in her chair because they have put in this huge project, which was helped funded by the Brevard County half cent. So it is the biggest baffle box east of the Mississippi River. And that is huge for us. The water basin, all that water from all those homes, all those roads is going through this one, kind of like the chamber that I showed you guys, the big white concrete blocks here. And that's basically what it is, just underground. And water flows over, and it's like there's little walls. And so as the water cascades over one wall, it drops off litter. And then at the end, you can actually remove nutrients. So there's media in there to remove nitrogen and phosphorus. So that's, we're getting there. So as far as an actual number of the filters, I can't really say because every water system is different, unfortunately. But I can tell you there are dozens of these baffle boxes all across the county. And then there's usually that end pipe right before it gets into the lagoon. So it's taking, maybe 100 different pipes with all that different water and it funneled it to one place, and then it cascades over and gets rid of the work.
Oh, all right, awesome. We have another question for Nicole. Is where can people buy or get rain barrels, and how many gallons of water can the rain barrels hold?
Great
We got a few
question.
questions.
Yeah, great question. So there, you can get a rain barrel at your traditional hardware stores, but we also sell them at the Marine Resources Council for $55. If you are a City of Melbourne resident and on Melbourne Water, there is a $50 rebate program through the City of Melbourne. So it ends up being a $5 rain barrel, but make sure you qualify for the rebate. Also, if you're in the city of Cocoa, there is also a rebate program there. These rain barrels hold 55 gallons of water. And even though they are super big, and you sounds like 55 gallons is a lot, in a 10 by 10 square foot area of your roof, within the first inch of rainfall, this rain barrel will fill up with water. That big rain that we had on Sunday, here's our rain barrel, and you can even see that there is so much water in this rain barrel.
Well, just to add to that, rain barrels come in different volumes. So like Ace Hardware has really cute ones that are probably only about 20 gallons. They've got some that even look like rocks, like a huge boulder, and that actually fills up with water too. So yeah, I think that one holds about 40 gallons. So they come in different sizes, shapes. They can be decorative, almost like big vases, or they can be like the ones at MRC and just standard, and then you can paint them. You can do anything with them.
Yeah, so there's lots of flexibility with it. The important thing is to make sure that you're getting a rain barrel that's going to fit for your home or your location the best. We want people to use the rain barrels properly. So that means if you don't want to use a 55-gallon one and you only want a 20-gallon one, that's totally okay too.
Awesome, awesome. And here's a question for either one of you. Is there plankton in the lagoon? And that's Miss Froth's 5th grade class. Is there plankton in the lagoon?
I can take that one. I just report. So we have nanoplankton, and so just like SpongeBob plankton. So you can actually see him with the naked eye. Think nano, as in you can't see it with the naked eye. So we've actually got right now a bloom concentration, which means like millions of them in one location. So we have nanoplankton in the lagoon. We have different types of, we've got brown algae, green algae, so we've got mixes. But thankfully, those numbers are very low right now. I don't know what we're doing right, but we're doing it. But yeah, nanoplankton still seems to be the sneaky one. But they're so tiny, and there's so many organisms that eat those. So we're not super worried about it. They've been here for years, and again, there's so many organisms that eat them that it's just part of the ecosystem.
And they're important, aren't they? They produce a lot of oxygen. Plankton.
Yeah, so people don't think about that. We always talk about how bad some stuff is, and those are actually a positive thing for our environment. Maybe not quite so many, but but yeah, we do have quite a bit, and we're grateful that they're here.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are asking, what is muck and how does it end up in the water? Maybe you can, explain that again.
Yeah, so muck is the accumulation of all the organic, or so anything that was once living that has now died, or all like the different chemicals and such as pesticides and fertilizers. It also has a very, very fine sediment to it, meaning like the different kinds of soils. It's broken down so fine that it's almost like a baby powder texture in some areas. So it's kind of like super, super, super soft. And it's going to like compact down into kind of like a black mayonnaise is the way that a lot of people like to describe it. I'll show you guys it again. and you can see it hopefully in the sun. The muck is down at the bottom of the jar right here. And it's just compacted organic nutrients and sediment. It clouds the water. It holds a lot of nutrients that when it gets jostled and it kind of like suspends back into the water column, it releases nutrients, which cause algae blooms, and again, clouds the water so that seagrass cannot photosynthesize. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Jennifer.
Or what's one way that we're, getting muck out of the lagoon?
There's literally one way. Well, I shouldn't say that. So there's research about how alternate methods of getting it, but really the only truly effective way right now is called dredging. And so basically you're just putting a pipe in there and you suck it up. And so we dry it and then we treat it to get the metals out, any of the chemicals out, and then we drive that off. Unfortunately, usually to the landfill. We haven't found a good safe use for it yet. We used to put it on sod farms, but unfortunately regulations changed and they didn't think that was safe enough for grass. So we had to stop doing that. And now unfortunately it just goes to the landfill, which they need. Those trucks need something flat and firm with traction to climb that big old hill, unfortunately, in Cocoa. But right now, we actually found a way. FIT had conducted a study with micro bubblers, and what they did was, now I was talking about the fountains for the aeration on the top. Now they've switched it over for the muck. Again, it's just a pack of nutrients, and it's always giving it off in the water column, especially if it gets stirred up. So just by having that muck sitting on the bottom of the lagoon, it's radiating vitamins and nutrients, just giving it off, and it's nothing good. So we need to get rid of it. So we have to now look for new research. So anyway, these micro bubblers is basically like a big old rod on the bottom, like literally on the bottom of the lagoon, and it's got teeny tiny bubbles, almost like an aquarium, where you've got that rock that has the bubbles that come up. Well, think of that just straightened out and longer with teeny tiny bubbles all filtering up. So they had a lot of success with that. The only problem is it's expensive and you need power. So they set up solar panels, but it was in the middle of a canal in Satellite Beach. Again, it worked, but how do you do that for the whole lagoon? So that's what they're trying to figure out now, the next step. So right now, unfortunately, it's dredging. So we've got a project in the Grand Canal right now, and also Sykes Creek, and a lot of the small tributaries, the canals where people live. They just suck out that muck.
Cool, good information. And Miss Quinlan's class wants to know, and they're in 4th grade, where did the rain go when there were no grates on the ground, the rectangular boxes on the ground, those grates?
So think about the population here, and I know it's tough, like especially I'm at your age, to think of the world as just a different place. There weren't hardly any people here. Like population of Brevard County was like 20,000. That's it. You have more than that in Melbourne right now. So the entire county, it was just this teeny tiny amount of people, all right around NASA because of the space program. So when you've got that few people that live here, so almost none of the roads were paved. So that's all dirt. So when the rain hit, remember Danny the Drop, he may have gotten smacked a little harder because it wasn't soft cushiony grass, but it was dirt. So it just sucked right in. All these houses, they didn't even exist. The businesses didn't exist. Most of Melbourne, Vieira, Rockledge, Cocoa, and well, you're really Titusville too. It was all cows. It was all pastures. So, there really weren't that many roads. And the roads that they did have, they slanted them. This is a little extreme, but they slanted the roads that way that when the water did hit, it would roll down into the grassy sides. They didn't have curbs to keep all of that. So it naturally just rolled off. It really wasn't a problem. But as more and more people started moving here for the space program, for the Air Force Base, and again, just the blossom of businesses, that's when they started paving the roads and building the houses. And that's when we started experiencing more problems.
Yeah, because, when you build roads, then the water has to flow somewhere, right? Whereas, you know, when it was more, there were more forests and more natural and more ranches, it could just, the water could just go right into the soil. So we have to create these ways that water doesn't stay on and flood the roads, basically, right? Great. A lot of questions about how much muck is in the lagoon. Do we know how much muck is in there currently? And, you know,
There's so much. So I don't
how much
actually,
feet?
Nicole,
I don't know.
it's part of the measuring program. Do you have the
No,
numbers
Nicole?
offhand? I know some of them.
Yeah, so I know in some places, you know, there's going to be areas where muck is going to be 10, 15 feet deep. So that doesn't mean that it's 10 to 15 feet deep throughout the entire lagoon, but in a lot of places there is an enormous amount of muck. I knew a guy who had his like canal or like river dredged, and they removed enough muck the size of a football field, but 400 feet tall.
Wow.
That is how much muck was removed from one area of the lagoon. And the lagoon itself is 156 miles long. So think about how much muck is in there.
But good thing we've got, you know, scientists and people who are dedicated like yourselves in, you know, cleaning up this issue and hopefully educating and getting people on board and creating solutions going forward so that,
And
you know,
don't forget that even though you guys are kids, you guys can still make a major impact. You can tell your parents everything that you learned today. You can do your own part and pick up any litter that you see along the streets. You can pick up after your pet. You can make sure that you're reducing your water use at home by turning off the faucet when you're brushing your teeth. Simple things like that can make a big impact.
some people are asking, oh, what is this? Can a rip current hurt fish? Somebody wants to know if a rip current can hurt fish. Maddie, a fourth grader.
I'm pretty sure fish.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So they could get separated from their school, I suppose. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so they wouldn't necessarily get hurt though. And I will say, like as far as turtles, you know, when those baby sea turtles hatch, sometimes the rip current can be a little tough for those guys. But as far as fish, not so much, because that's, you know, think about how rip current works. It's the same. It's parallel. It's the same side as the beach itself. So it's just going to take them horizontally. It's not like it's going to shove them outside or bring them up to the shoreline. It just brings them across. So
Nice.
yeah, they'll be okay. They'll make it.
It is almost sea turtle season. Do you guys have any good pointers for people to watch out for? I mean, I know it's not related to the lagoon really, but it is almost sea turtle season. So
there was one study that UCF, again, go Knights, they love it, tree huggers. They did a study about all these false crawls, is what they call them, is when a female turtle that's got eggs to lay comes up to the beach, decides I'm not going to lay my eggs here, and then goes back to the ocean. They researched what happened there, and it turns out that even the smallest piece of litter, like a flip-flop, was enough to deter that female turtle back to the ocean and not lay her eggs. Also, the holes they love to dig, they hate those holes because the babies, when they hatch, will get stuck in those. So if you go to the beach and you're digging holes, make sure you really pack that down and fix it. You know, dig a hole, that's fine, but you know, fix it afterwards before you leave. And then again, make sure if you see any litter, literally any on that beach, pick it up and throw it away, because something as small as a child's shoe will be enough for that mama turtle to not lay her eggs.
Same with sand castles. So if you've built a sand castle, make sure that you knock it down when you leave. You want to make sure that the turtles have dark, flat, and clean beaches. That is what they like. Dark, flat, and clean.
Awesome. We do have, you know, a couple more questions if you all want to stick around. Other than that, we have about 3 minutes left. Some people are asking, where can they find information about the lagoon and the health of it online? About,
So one of our favorite spots, of course, for the county is lagoonloyal.com. So Lagoon Loyal, you'll see it all over Brevard County trucks. We've got stickers, we've got little masks and everything. But yeah, Lagoon Loyal. And so that is our big education tool. So it's going to have everything from muck to projects that we're installing across the county with cities, businesses, and then just with the county funds themselves. And then also how we've teamed up to get education material out there. And we've got coupons too.
Yeah, and
Anywhere else?
You can check out the Marine Resources Council website, savetheirl.org. We are coming out with the updated version of the Indian River Lagoon Health Report Card, which compares state collected data to regulatory standards and presents it in a way that the Irish person can understand, just like a report card. And it ranks the lagoon from A being 100% to F being failing. And Lagoon Loyal is a fantastic program. We love Lagoon Loyal. We support it. If your parents like to help out the lagoon, there's fantastic rewards for your parents for doing lagoon friendly things like discounts to dinners, going kayaking. So there's lots of really cool things on lagoonloyal.com.
And there's the app, right? Isn't there an app?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Oh, what do I feel like? Oh, okay. Well, there soon will be. I was getting points. Okay, I must have been going online on my phone. But
Yep.
Yeah, so, okay, just one more question, and I think we should call it, maybe. Do you want a question about sea turtles or the lagoon? Because now we have a lot of questions.
Fine.
So someone's asking, maybe this is an important question to answer. If you see a baby sea turtle that's struggling to move or stuck in the sand, what should you do? And if you take one of the eggs from the sea turtles, what would happen? These are very important questions.
So I can tell you that the Barrier Island Center down in Melbourne Beach handles pretty much all of the turtle egg laying stuff. They work with UCF, and they've got volunteers along with the Sea Turtle Conservancy. I can't remember. But they always recommend do not touch them, do not help, because whether it's oils in your hands, the scent that it leaves behind, potential injuries, because those guys are soft. If you want to shoot some seagulls, though, feel free. But ordinarily they hatch at night anyway. But you'll see the stakes in the ground and tape around the nests. If you see one struggling, or like maybe it's a hurricane coming, feel free to give the Barrier Island Center a call and let them know. And they can send out a professional to come and handle it properly. Those eggs, if they get turned, the little embryonic sac can choke off or cut, and you'll kill the turtle. So if you ever see a loose egg, odds are it's not going to make it anyway.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys so much. We have a lot of other questions. But I don't know if we can answer them all. I don't know if you all want to stick around a little bit longer. It's up to you.
So I can stick around. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say I could stick around for probably about another 15, 20 minutes.
So I can stick around, but I'm gonna have to walk to my car because this has used almost all the juice in my phone. So but I will absolutely answer questions.
Well, some people are asking if there's germs. Are there any germs in the lake?
Yeah.
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 I think there's germs everywhere, aren't there?
I'm not jumping in. Yeah. So again, going back mostly to the dog waste, even just walking the grass to get over here, I saw a bunch of dog waste that people decided not to pick up. So that germ that bacteria, along with, anything else that's going to be out here, from the fish, the birds, and soil naturally has bacteria. I mean, I'm sitting in it right now. I think I'll live. I'm not going to, lick it, but you've got bacteria everywhere. I mean, it lives on your skin. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. Everybody knows that after COVID. But yes, there are definitely germs in that water. So if you have sensitive skin, like my partner at work, she's allergic, I think, to everything. And if she touches water with like some of the vegetation that you can see behind me, her whole arm will start breaking out in red spots. So it depends on how sensitive you are. But yes, there are definitely germs, bacteria in the water.
Yep. And if you want to learn more about that, we recommend going to Surfrider. They have a bacteria monitoring program where they are monitoring the different levels of bacteria through out Brevard County, different locations. I think there's Cocoa Beach Pier. They monitor Turkey Creek. And so it's really interesting to see the bacteria levels there fluctuate.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. If you have more questions and your questions didn't get answered because we really just couldn't get to them, please email Nicole at mrc dot
Or IRL.org.
IRL at MRC, or no, mrcirl.org. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I was trying to remember that from the top of my head, but yeah. So thank you all so much for joining our virtual field trip. We hope you learned a ton about stormwater, rainwater runoff, the lagoon health, and what you can do to help keep our lagoon clean and conserve water as well.
All right, thank you. I'll show you guys the lagoon since we're here.
Yes. Love to see the lagoon. You have the best spot.
I know, it's so nice. All right. Ooh, look at that. There is oh, you guys probably can't see it. There's a bird. Yeah, you can barely see it, but yeah, there's a bird.
Is that a pelican?
No, I think it's a cormorant drying its wings. And let's see, what else do we got? We got some people out there boating. There's a sailboat in the distance. So very beautiful. So the lagoon is a beautiful and unique place to live. So make sure that you do your part to help save it.
Woohoo! Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Nicole.
All right.
Absolutely.
Bye,
It's our pleasure being
everyone.
here.
Yeah.
What's that? Sorry, you cut out, Jennifer. You said something.
Oh, no, just, yeah. Thank you so much for having us. And if you got any questions, always feel free to call Brevard County Natural Resources as well.
Or City of Melbourne Eco Division. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.